regards to her civil lawsuit, and were provided under those circumstances.
I don't intend to bring out the circumstances of why she had the photos taken, Judge, just that they do depict the injuries that she sustained. With respect to S-386, my understanding of that incision was that the bleeding was excessive inside her body, and it was, she was cut open to relieve the pressure. And with respect to S-385, that's the, again, the incision that then continues around to her back, where during the emergent operation, she was opened up in order for the doctors to perform surgery.
All right, I'm going to disallow the use of these photographs, 385, 386, 387. I don't think they're necessary in this case. 388 will be allowed. That shows a front view of Ms. Kanarek just above the left breast, which shows 2 entry wounds. I also understand we've had testimony about the gunshot wounds to the victim and the perforations, as well as the exit wounds to the back. And as I understand it, the treating physician or the doctor who performed the surgery will testify and can certainly testify about Ms. Kanarek's medical condition, the bullet wounds, the path of the wounds, the exit wounds, the need for the incision in the stomach, and all such medical-related information. These pictures are after the fact at some point. I don't know exactly when, and I'm not sure the incisions are necessary for any determination by the jury here. And there's no issue that Ms. Kanarek was shot in this case. So I don't think those are necessary for the state to meet their burden here. But certainly any testimony regarding the injuries is fine, and other photographs agreed to which show the entrance wounds can be admitted, but not those. 385, 386, 387.
Judge, then with that, I would ask that the court receive into evidence, and if we could just do this while we're on the topic of S-388, that could be received into evidence so I can
Yes.
show it to the witness, as well as...
And by the witness can certainly testify about her injuries.
Yes.
So,
Thank you.
in addition, I'm not foreclosing that. It's just the photographs of the incisions I don't think are necessary. And
Judge, if I could also ask to admit into evidence at this point S-335, S-342, S-343.
right, start over again. 388 is in.
What's the first one?
Right, what are the other ones?
S-335,
Mm-hmm.
S-342, S-343, S-345.
And those are photographs of the farmhouse.
Yes, Judge.
Right, outside, exterior.
Yes.
Right. Location of the shooting incident.
One of them is a photo of the front of the farmhouse,
Uh-huh.
but the others depict the exterior of the farmhouse in the area of the shooting.
Okay. Any objection?
No, Judge.
All right. Those are in evidence. All right, we ready for the jury? All right, bring the jury in, Ms. Radler. And Mr. Shellhorn, I know Mr. Kanarek was here, he's been told he,
Yes, Judge.
All right.
He's not here.
all right.
Judge, I just discussed with Mr. Belinkis 2 pages from the Facebook. The Facebook records, there's a stipulation to the authenticity of those.
Okay,
Those are marked as S400, 402, I apologize, S402. And then I had marked 2 pages as S402A and S402B that I may show the witness. I have shown those to Mr. Belinkis.
all right, the jurors are present, be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, during the break, we did have some legal discussions about a number of things, but focused on some photographs. So rather than do that in front of you, we did it outside of your presence for the next witness. So the court did admit the following photographs into evidence, and they'll be likely shown to the next witness. So it's State's Exhibit 335. That's a photograph. 342, 343, 345, and finally 388. So those have all been reviewed by counsel. They have agreed that those can be admitted into evidence, and the court has so admitted those photographs. So we're ready to proceed with the next witness. Mr. Shellhorn, call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, the state calls Lauren Kanarek.
All right, Lauren Kanarek. Ms. Kanarek, please remain standing. Place your left hand on the Bible if you would. Please raise your right hand. Thank you. Listen to my court clerk.
Do you swear in the presence of Almighty God that the testimony you give to this court regarding this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Lauren Shea Kanarek, last name spelled K-A, N is in Nancy, A-R-E-K.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Kanarek, you may have a seat. In response to questions, please keep your voice up nice and loud. That microphone does not amplify. It only records. So we have jurors seated in the first 2 rows of the gallery as well as in the jury box, so keep your voice up nice and loud. If you don't understand a question, just indicate you don't understand, and I'll have counsel rephrase. And if you hear during your testimony one of the attorneys object, please don't answer or stop answering until the court rules on the objection.
Okay.
All right, very good.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Shellhorn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Kanarek. Can you please introduce yourself again to the jury?
Yes, my name is Lauren Kanarek.
And that actually doesn't amplify at all, it just picks up, so you don't have to lean in, don't worry about that. How old are you?
I am 41.
Where do you currently live?
I currently live in Florida, Waxahachie, Florida.
Do you know Michael Barison?
I do.
Do you see him in court today?
I do.
Can you identify him for the record by an article of clothing that he's wearing?
Yes. He is wearing a white shirt and a yellowish tie.
All right. Identifying the defendant, Mr. Barisone, for the record.
Before we get to how you know the defendant, I want to ask you some questions about your background in the equestrian world. Can you tell the jury a little bit about what your equestrian background is, starting with what your current riding discipline is?
My current riding discipline is dressage,
Can you explain to the jury what dressage is?
as best as possible. Dressage literally transfers to training in French. But what essentially it is supposed to be is a harmonious partnership between horse and rider. In competition, it is to execute a series of movements that is judged on technicalities, and in training, you could just be riding your horse, trying to build a better partnership, so you have a good relationship with your horse, and things are just done harmoniously.
Have you ever ridden any other disciplines?
I have.
Can you tell the jury what that was?
I used to do show jumping, or jumping, and that's just basically riding around a course of jumps at different heights and at our high speeds to try to get it done quickly.
Do you recall when you switched from focusing on jumping to dressage?
Yes, sometime around 2015, I want to say, around that area.
What was the reason that you switched the discipline that you were focusing on?
I was just kind of a little bit bored. I'd been jumping since I was a very young teenager, and I just saw people riding in the discipline of dressage and thought, this looks more fun. Some people might see it as boring, but I thought, this looks fun, I want to try it, it's interesting, and that's what I did.
In general, what is the process that a rider would go through in terms of developing that harmonious relationship with the horse?
Well, you would hire hopefully a trainer to help you try to move those things along. You could spend a lot of time doing groundwork. Riding is the main thing. Riding's kind of a must there. But yes, I would say the combination of things you do on your own with your horse and things that you would do with a trainer to help you get better at what you're doing with your horse to make that relationship better.
And what specifically are the things that a trainer helps the rider or the horse develop during that process?
A variety of different skills. A trainer might help a horse develop a certain movement that you might show in a test that you're competing in. But yeah, that's basically what I would say.
Where do horses typically live?
In a stable, a barn, stall.
And is it common to train at the same facility where the horses are boarded?
Yes.
Does the same person typically coach the rider as well as the horses?
Yes.
Taking your attention back to 2018 and 2019, who was your trainer?
2008, I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. Taking you back to 2018 and 2019, who was your trainer?
Michael Barisone.
Did you pay him to train you?
Yes.
And did you pay him to board the horses?
Yes.
Do you remember approximately how much he was paid monthly in, let's call it the summer of 2019?
Approximately $5,000 a month.
Now, you said that you currently live in Waxahachie, Florida?
Yes,
Have you ever lived in New Jersey?
I have.
When was that?
I guess from the age of 4 until somewhere around 2000.
Have you ever lived in New Jersey after the year 2000, even on a seasonal basis?
Yeah.
When you came back to New Jersey, where would you live? Specifically in 2018 and 2019.
I would live on the premises of Hawthorne Hill Farm in a farmhouse.
Where is Hawthorne Hill Farm?
It is located in Long Valley, New Jersey.
Whose farm was that?
Michael Barisone's.
At times during the year, is it common for specifically dressage riders to train in different parts of the country?
Yes.
What's the reason for that?
Mainly the weather, but aside from that, you go to, I guess, when you're riding at the levels that you want to be riding at, they're higher levels, you go to Florida because that's kind of like the mecca of, I guess, dressage and jumping in the entire country. That's where everything is located. The top trainers, top clinics, events, things to go out and do. So that's where you go for the winter, or snowbird kind of. that's how that works.
Now, speaking of that, do you recall when you first met Michael Barison?
Yes, I met him either at the very end of February or very beginning of March of 2018.
Do you recall where you met him?
Yes, I met him at his barn in Loxahatchee, Florida. Yes, that's where it was.
And what was the purpose for you being at his barn at that time period?
He was giving a clinic that month, so I attended it with my trainer that was training me at the time.
At the time when you went to that clinic, were you familiar with him by either name or reputation?
By name, as a clinician mostly.
And after meeting him
So
and
sorry.
participating in that clinic, did you become involved in a professional relationship with him?
Yes.
What was the nature of that professional relationship you entered into in early 2018?
That he was basically the trainer of my horses, and while he was holding the clinic,
No, so you said that he would train your horses.
yes.
Was there any other things that you agreed with him that he would do for you or that you would do for him?
Oh yeah, well he was, during that clinic, he was saying to me, I need to come to New Jersey and train there. So, and he was like, pushing this, and he seemed to be an excellent trainer. I thought that's probably a good idea.
Now, what are your aspirations within the dressage community?
Just to be the best rider that I can be and develop my horses to the top levels of the sport.
And is having a trainer important to that goal?
Extremely important to that goal.
During the course of time that you worked with the defendant, how would you say that your riding went?
Very well. I improved greatly in a short period of time, and I was very satisfied.
Did you have the opportunity to train at the Florida farm as well as the New Jersey farm?
Yes, both.
Now, I'll point your attention again to 2018 and 2019 during the summer season when you, I think, indicated you were training at Hawthorne Hill in New Jersey.
Yes.
Where did you live when you were here in New Jersey training?
I lived for the first year in the farmhouse on the property on the main entrance floor.
And did you live in a different place during the second summer?
Yes.
Where was that?
That was in a different apartment within that same home, in the upstairs apartment of that same house. Just a different floor, different apartment.
Based on your recollection, then, the Hawthorne Hill farm had living accommodations for people as well as boarding accommodations for horses?
Correct.
Is that common for a rider to live at the same property where they're training?
Yeah, it happens. It's common.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about your impressions or your recollections about what else was on the property?
You mean as far as, like, barns or?
Was there a stable, was there
Okay,
training
yeah.
arenas or
Yes.
facilities?
Yeah, okay, so there was the farmhouse where people lived, and then there's also like a very large barn with an arena, indoor arena, and there's also an outdoor arena, what we call a round pen for training, and also a clubhouse for like gatherings, just kind of hang out in between rides and things like that, like a little social area. So that was also on the property.
Is it fair to say that when you were on the property or when you had horses there, would you spend a good deal of time up at the barn or the clubhouse?
Yes, when I was up there riding, yeah, I would say that's fair to say.
Do you recall in specifically in that building, the area between the stables where the horses' stalls were and the clubhouse?
Yes.
What was in that area?
Lockers, specifically in between the clubhouse and where the stalls are.
Yes.
The row of lockers and I believe 2 tack rooms where you'd store saddles and larger pieces of equipment.
Did you have a locker in that area?
Yes, I did.
Judge, I'd like to show the witness one of the photos that's already been moved into evidence. This is S-329.
Very well, can be displayed on the screen.
Ms. Kanarek, is that the hallway that you're talking about?
Yes.
That leads from the stables into the clubhouse?
Yes, it is.
What's through that door on the left there?
So through the store, you can kind of see them. They're saddles that are on racks, which is, yeah, that's mostly all a saddle rack row.
And to the right of the door hanging on the wall, what are all those things?
These are awards and medals, different medallions, and different things that you might win if, let's say, you've won a show or you've competed at a certain level. USDF or USCF, the federations which oversee our sport, might send them to you. Or you might win them at the show, at the very show itself.
Did you have any awards or medallions on that wall?
Not on this wall, but sort of right next to it at one point. Not at this, in this picture.
But as part of this collection of medallions?
Yes, yes.
Thanks, Alan. All right, I want to go back and ask you some questions about the living arrangements on the property. You indicated that the first summer you were there in 2018, that you were there and you lived on the first floor of the farmhouse?
Correct.
Can you describe for the jury what the general layout or makeup of the farmhouse was?
Sure. So the farmhouse had basically 3 floors. The main floor had a bedroom and like a kitchen, and of course bathroom. The basement had several bedrooms for staff to stay, and they had their own rooms, and everyone kind of lived together. And the upstairs apartment as well, where the assistant trainer lived. So there was altogether 3 living spaces, but one of which had several different bedrooms for like a group of people to stay, kind of like a sorority, a little bit house in a way.
Is that where the working students would live?
Yes.
Was the farmhouse, or were all these separate areas in the farmhouse interconnected?
By some method or another, yes. Like there was a way you could get to each floor, but they weren't just like completely closed off.
When you moved there in the summer of 2018, the first summer you lived there, on the first floor, did you live there with anyone?
Yes.
Who did you live there with?
I lived there with my boyfriend or fiance, my life partner, and my 2 dogs.
And what is his name?
Robert Goodwin.
Judge, I'd like to show the witness a exhibit S402B.
That's one we haven't discussed.
That's one we discussed right before the jury came in, Your Honor. There's a stipulation as to the authenticity of the records that these came from.
All right, very well. 402B it is?
Yes, sir.
All right, 402B.
Ms. Kanarek, do you have a Facebook account?
I do.
And how would you rate your Facebook activity? With what frequency do you use Facebook?
Quite a lot. At least at the time.
And I'm going to draw you. I'm going to draw your attention to a post from May 13th, 2018. And this has been marked as S402B. What is S402B a picture of?
Oh, my dog is in the picture.
Where is this picture taken?
This is taken in the main floor apartment.
Of the
of the
farmhouse.
farmhouse, yes.
And can you point out where the dog is in that picture?
Now I can. Wait, how do I?
Or you could just explain it to the jury.
Oh,
They
okay.
have it on the big screens.
So she is, if you see the chair that's kind of like tucked into the table, if you look back and to the left of that, there's like a dark figure sitting with like her head facing rightwards. That's the dog.
So that's through the doorway in the other room.
Yes, to go into the living room.
What's her name?
Rosie.
Do you know approximately how big Rosie is?
She's approximately 28 pounds, short.
Thanks. So you indicated that in the summer of 2018, you and Rob and your dogs were living on the first floor of the farmhouse?
Correct.
Working students were living downstairs,
Yes.
and the assistant trainer was living on the second floor?
Yeah, where's that? I guess depending on how you count the basement, but yes, the top floor. The
Top floor.
second or third, depending on how you
What
look at
is
it.
the assistant trainer's name?
Justin Harden.
Now, what were the circumstances of your coming to live in the farmhouse that summer of 2018?
The circumstances were that when we were at the clinic in Florida, Michael basically had said, you know, come to New Jersey with me. I will help you develop these horses. You know, if you come, I have a place for you to stay. That will not be a problem. Just load your horses, come. We'll have accommodation for you to stay, and you don't have to rent anything outside the area of the barn. You'll love it. And I was sold immediately.
Did your living situation at the farm change between 2018 and when you came back there for the summer of 2019?
It did.
Where did you live in the summer of 2019?
In the summer of 2019, upon our return to New Jersey, we were living in that upstairs apartment instead of the main floor that we just saw a picture of a moment ago.
And just specifically from what you knew, when you came back to the farmhouse that summer of 2019, did you have a chance to see the condition of the rest of the farmhouse?
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Could you repeat that one time?
Sure.
I'm sorry.
When you came back to the farmhouse in 2019,
Yes.
that summer, did you have a chance to see the condition of the other levels of the farmhouse?
Yes.
And what did you see or what did you observe of those levels?
The levels that were below the level that we were staying in were pretty much like destroyed, like almost unlivable, pretty much destroyed from a pipe that had burst previously.
Now, during the summer of 2019, when you lived there and you were on the top floor, was any of the working students living in the bottom floor?
No.
Do you know where they were living?
They were all sent to go live in the barn somewhere.
Was anyone living at times on the first floor or the main floor of the farmhouse?
Yes, when we returned, Mary Haskins Gray and Michael Barisone were living in the main floor and the basement of that house.
And I don't think I've asked you yet, but who is Mary Haskins Gray?
Mary Haskins Gray is Michael Barisone's girlfriend.
Was she his girlfriend during the entire course of time that you knew the defendant?
Yes.
Did you know before you came back to New Jersey in 2019 that you would be living on the top floor of the farmhouse?
I'm sorry, I wasn't sure about the dates there. Could you just repeat that one more time? I'm sorry.
Did you know before you came back to New Jersey in 2019 that you would be living on a different floor of the farmhouse, on the
Yes,
top floor?
I did.
What was the circumstances of you going to live on the second floor?
The circumstances were that the house was unlivable, and that there was really only one place that was livable, and that would be the upstairs apartment, although that was the assistant trainer's apartment. So we ended up working out some situation where it ended up being that we were able to live on the top floor, and Michael said he'd work everything else out, so we just went with that.
And just so the record is clear, when you say we were able to work that out, who do you mean you worked that out with?
Myself and Michael Barison.
Now, I want to ask you some questions about the boarding and training arrangements that you had with your horses.
Yeah.
How many horses did you own in 2019?
In 2019, I owned 6 horses at that time.
And what are the reasons that you own 6 horses?
I like horses, but also I feel it's important, and Michael would always, say this is important as a trainer, to keep horses on the same levels, some of them, so if you're competing, you can, let's say, if you make a team or get selected to go to regionals as a pair, your horse goes lame. You then have the option to ride and get those scores with another horse that's at the same level. So it's important to keep some horses at the same levels doing the same things. But it's also important to have horses at a different level to learn how to bring them up the levels on your own to build that harmony I was talking about earlier.
Were all of your horses at the defendant's farm when you were there in summer of 2019?
No.
Did you have horses at other farms?
Yes.
Do you recall how many horses you had at the farm in 2019?
At
At
Barison's.
Mr. Barison's farm.
So it was different amounts at different times in 2019. I had 4 horses, one of which I purchased from him, and I had 4 on his premises at that time.
Judge, can we have a more specific time frame? I believe it changed at different times.
Judge, I'm sure that's something that Mr. Belinkis is free to clear up on cross-examination if he thinks it's important.
Well, you can do that, Mr. Belinkus.
Now, you talked about the importance of having a trainer to train with the rider and the horse. What is the breakdown? What's the responsibility of the rider versus the trainer during the course of that training?
It changes. I would say it's the responsibility of the rider because you're the one who needs to get the job done at the end of the day. But the trainer, the more experienced the trainer is, should be on the ground and should be somebody that can spot a mistake immediately and try to help you fix it. And if you are unable to fix it, a trainer will usually get on the horse and see what is he or she feeling that you're not able to figure it out on your own. And they might have different ways of fixing the problem before you get on and try to do it yourself again.
And specifically with respect to your training with Michael Barisone, did you have the opportunity to work with him training on occasion?
Yes.
And I think you said that you became a better rider with him as your coach and trainer.
Definitely.
Now, you indicated that Justin Harden was an assistant trainer.
Correct.
What were your impressions or observations of his general responsibilities at the farms?
My observations were that he would sometimes assist in training, and also basically, I guess, delegate responsibilities to what he would consider to be, the less senior members of the staff or whatever, or however you might phrase that, for lack of a better phrase.
Now, at times during the course of when you first became associated with Michael Barisone in early March or early 2018,
Yes.
through into 2019, were you coached at times by Michael Barisone and Justin Harden?
Yes.
Were there any times where you were coached or trained by Mary Haskins-Gray?
During that time specifically, or the whole time?
During the entire time?
Yes, there were.
And how did you feel about that?
I wasn't very excited about that.
Can you explain why?
To me, I did not feel she had the experience, the training, or any of the things that a higher level trainer would possess. Or it could just be that you know, you don't mesh with the person. But to me, I didn't feel she had the experience.
Did she play any role in your decision to switch your trainer in 2018 and go train with Michael Barison?
I'm
In other
sorry.
words, did you go train with Michael Barison because of Mary Haskins Gray?
No,
Why did you go train with Michael Barison?
because he was a trainer with more experience, and he basically was the person that had been there and done that. So there'd never be like any issue of, you know, like competition. Someone who's already been to the highest places, they're trying to help you get better.
Now, did you compete in any competitions or attend any horse shows during the period of time that you were associated with Michael Barison's business?
Yes,
What is his business considered in the dressage industry?
training business.
What kind of a barn is it?
It's a dressage barn.
I guess, is there any significance when you would register for a show or a competition to registering associated with a certain barn?
I mean, yes, there's always that significance. Depending on, you know, judges might, you know, favor, have a preference towards a certain coach, or think that, you know, they're more of a prestigious barn, so you're getting a better education, they might be paying closer attention to what you're doing. But I believe there's definitely a significance to who you're training with.
When you would compete in a competition or a horse show, were those competitions or horse shows held at Michael Barison's farm?
No.
Where would it be fair to say they would be held at other locations?
Yes.
How would you get there with your horses?
They would be trailered, in a trailer.
And who did that?
Either Michael himself or Justin Harden.
Is that something that costs money?
Yes, if you're getting it done privately.
And was that included in the price that you were paying to Michael Barison during the time you were there?
Yes.
Now, between living at Michael Barison's farm, at times in the same house, as well as being coached and trained by him, did you make any observations of his personality?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what your observations were?
My observations were that, you know, there's times where he was hilariously funny and charming and nice. And then there were days where you would just see him and he just looked angry, and you just knew that day you did not want to approach him. You might even see him, like, you know, screaming at a staff member, and even though maybe it hadn't happened to you yourself yet, you just knew, don't go near him, just keep your distance.
You said that he was hilarious or funny, something to that nature. What was the nature of his sense of humor?
He would just tell funny jokes, and, you know, I can't think of a specific example at the time. Sometimes the jokes he would tell were not funny and offensive, to be honest. But at least, I mean, I guess he thought they were funny.
Now, at any point during the course of time that you were dealing with him professionally, did your relationship change?
Yes,
And would you say that it got better or worse?
worse.
What was the worst thing Michael Barison ever did to you?
Tried to violently murder me on August 7th of 2019.
Now, before I ask you some questions about that, let me ask you, do you own any guns?
I do.
How many guns do you own?
I own one gun.
And did you ever have that on either of Michael Barison's farms?
Never.
Where did you keep that handgun or
At
gun?
my home in North Carolina.
And what type of a gun was that?
It is a Walters 9mm PPX.
Do you remember approximately when you bought that?
Somewhere between 2015 and 2016, I want to say.
And can you describe for the jury generally the process that you had to go through for applying and purchasing that gun?
Yes. So once you choose the gun that you want to buy, you then have to get a permit. And so they do a background check, and then you're required to go to the sheriff's office. Like, they send you, like, I guess, a message of what you need to do. and you follow those instructions, and in one of those instructions is come to the sheriff's office, and they'll ask you questions, and if you need to provide anything, you provide it, and then give you a permit, and then you have your permit to actually go and pick up the gun that you've decided upon.
And are you describing that process as the same process you went through?
Yes,
That was North Carolina, right?
yes,
Have you ever used any drugs in the past?
yes.
What drugs?
I've used pills. At one point, I made a terrible decision to use heroin. That was mostly it. Oh, pot, probably.
And what, when you say pills, what got you started using drugs?
An injury, and I don't exactly remember what it was. I was doing a lot of sports at the time, somewhere in my like early 20s, and I guess I went to a doctor and he prescribed me some pain medicine that I had no idea really what it was. I just started taking it, and I became addicted to those painkillers, and had on and off addiction issues with painkillers since then, although I had clean time after that, on and off too.
Are you sober now?
Yes,
Did you ever use any illegal drugs at the time that you were living on Michael's Barisone's farm in the summer of 2018?
no,
How about the summer of 2019?
no,
Do you take any medication to help you maintain your sobriety?
I do.
Can you tell the jury what that is?
One major drug that I take is called Suboxone, and I take that drug to pretty much ensure that I maintain sobriety.
Does it help you?
Yes, it helps me tremendously.
Do you see a psychiatrist or an addiction specialist?
I do.
No, I think I asked you this question before, but I asked you specifically about Facebook.
Mhm.
And I think you said that you're very active on Facebook.
Yeah, at the time.
Do you ever, or did you ever, let me take you back more specifically, to the summer of 2019.
Okay.
Would you ever be involved then or before playing any sorts of games online or through mobile devices?
Yeah. A few. Not so many, but there were definitely a few.
What were some of your favorite games to play in that way?
Chess with friends, definitely number one for me, probably. Then I had a small bout with Farmville for a little while. But I would say of all of the games, chess with friends probably number one.
And what is your favorite thing about playing chess?
I think it heightens intelligence and makes you think of things in different ways. And mostly it was just a challenge for my mind. I enjoyed playing it and enjoyed having, like anonymous people to play with or friends. And it was just, it's something to do to heighten your intelligence and have fun at the same time.
Now, I had asked you questions a couple of minutes ago about the day in August when the defendant shot you in the chest.
Yes,
I think you indicated that you remember that that was August 7th, 2019.
yep.
Where were you when the defendant shot you?
I was on the porch on a, like a love seat that was on the porch that I would often lay on to read or sometimes watch a movie on my tablet. And I would just lay on the couch outside, it's nice weather. So I was on the porch right there on my love seat.
And this happened at the farmhouse?
Yes,
And were you still on the porch when he shot you?
no,
I'll ask you some questions about that more specifically in a few minutes.
okay.
You said a few minutes ago about how obviously the relationship that you had with Michael Barisone had gotten worse.
Yes.
Let me ask you some questions about what was going on between you and Michael Barisone.
Okay.
Were you having any issues during the summer of 2019 related to your coaching or who was coaching you?
Yes.
Can you explain that to the jury?
Yes. So, there was a time where Justin Harden had sort of become my main trainer, in a way. And I was not happy with that because I was paying a lot of money for the training specifically of Michael Barisone. And, you know, not to sound indelicate, but I didn't feel like I was paying all this money to be at the, you know, Justin Harden Academy of Dressage. I was specifically there for a specific trainer. There were other issues as well. He had a drinking problem, which I had brought to Michael's attention, and I guess that's pretty much what had happened.
And I guess in general, is it fair to say, with respect to who was coaching you or how you were being coached, were you vocal about that to Michael Barison?
Yes.
How did it make you feel that Justin, for example, was your primary trainer and it was no longer Michael Barison?
Just like tossed to the side, and that I was just there to pay money and board my horses and nothing more. Sometimes it seemed like it mattered and he was interested in, you know, our progression. Other times it was just, Justin, take this kind of thing.
During the summer of 2019, when you were at the farm in New Jersey, did things change in terms of the times that you were allowed to be at the barn or the times you were allowed to be around the horses?
Can you just repeat that one more time?
That was a
Mr.
compound question. So during that summer of 2019,
Yes.
at some point, did things change about when you could be at the barn or when you could be around the horses?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury about that?
Yes, so we had agreed in 2019 that we would do night check on our horses, which is checking to make sure that they're basically tucked in for the night. They have what they need. And we had agreed that we would be up there, do it, everything we needed to do, and, you know, try to be out of there by as close to 9:15 as possible and just be done. So that we would honestly go to bed. But everything, we wanted to have them settled for the night by that time anyway. So we kind of came up with that agreement, and that's how it was settled.
During the summer of 2019, did you bring another horse or a new horse to the barn?
Yes, Michael had pretty much insisted that this horse come to his farm, and I took her out of the rehab that she was in to bring her there. So sometime in, I believe it was early June, possibly late May, that horse did come to his farm at that time.
Did that horse specifically have any health issues?
Yes, that's why she was in rehab. She has a condition called chronic cellulitis, which is where a limb or several limbs, but usually just one, just blows up, full of edema and liquid, and it could range from mild to potentially fatal.
Did you have any responsibility as the owner of the horse for taking care of that?
Yes, I always have responsibility if it's my horse.
And if I didn't ask you this earlier, is it fair to say that Rob would help you at times with certain things related to care
Oh,
for the
yes.
horses?
Almost always.
So specifically in terms of this horse that had the condition, what did you have to do in terms of providing care to the horse on a daily basis?
Oh, lots of things. Starting with evaluating how she was looking, how she was eating, taking her temperature, but most of all, applying these things that we call standing wraps, which are a combination of like a white wrap made of cotton, which you then cover with another wrap made of sometimes like polyester that you wrap that over to keep the swelling down. So basically a compression sock with just a few extra details in between.
And how frequently would you have to do that or change it?
Pretty much every 12 hours, like 12 hours on, 12 hours off, or you risk other secondary injuries happening, like a tendon bug.
So does that mean you were typically doing it about twice a day?
Yes.
When would you typically, at what times of day would you typically try to do that 12-hour change?
I would try to get the wraps on around 9:15 and take them off sometime around the same time in the morning. I figured 9:15 is a good time, so I don't have to get up extremely early to remove them, or in the reverse, put them on and then take them off at those reverse times.
During the summer of 2019, you sort of alluded to this before, but did you
Yeah.
have any issues going on between you and Mary Haskins Gray?
Yeah,
And without getting necessarily into specifics, can you tell us generally about that?
she was just always condescending, and she was doing strange things like stealing my gloves out of my locker. At least that's what I thought. There was an incident where she put, I had a bridle that I was using for my ride, and before I went to go put the bridle on that horse, I turned around and she took it off my locker, kind of like the handle of my locker, and walked away with it saying, "This isn't hers, she can't use this," and just walked away with it. And there were other minor little things that happened as well.
I guess, do you do things the same way that Mary Haskins Gray does them?
No,
Does she do things the same way you do them?
no,
Do you do things the same way that Michael Barisone does them?
no,
Did you ever see him do things exactly the same way you do them?
no, not that I remember.
Did you ever feel like
Mr.
you were...
Shellhorn, are you talking about in taking care of horses, or generally, it's rather a broad question?
It's intended to be, Judge. I think it was, I can clarify that, though. Ms. Kanarek, would you say that you were treated differently if you acted differently from Mary Haskins with respect to your behavior?
Yes, I was treated differently.
Would you say that you were treated differently if you acted differently than Mary Haskins with respect to your demeanor at the barn?
100%.
Would you say you were treated differently if you acted differently with respect to riding a horse?
Yes,
With respect to the way you dressed,
yes,
the way you use social media?
yes,
Could I keep going?
yes, I mean, you could.
How did that make you feel when you were treated that way in response to the way you were acting?
Bad, honestly, just, I felt I was being treated unfairly, and I didn't really understand why, but that's the way that I felt about it.
Now, at some point, would you say that this started to happen, or you started to feel this way on more of a day-to-day or a more regular basis?
Yes, it progressed, sometimes more quickly and sometimes less quickly, but there was definitely a steady progression.
Do you remember approximately when that was in the summer of 2019?
Trying to think. I would say sometime in the area of mid-July, maybe? Early to mid-July is probably when it started, or when I noticed that things were really starting.
That's when you started to notice it?
Yeah,
Did you ever make any direct threats of violence against Michael Barison?
never,
Did you ever make any threats of violence against Michael Barison using Facebook?
never,
Did you ever make any threats of violence against Mary Haskins on Facebook?
never,
Did you ever write things on Facebook, for example, that you knew would be or could be unflattering to them?
yeah,
Now, you mentioned in July of 2019, or the summer of 2019, I'm sorry, that you were living on the top floor of the farmhouse?
yes,
And Michael Barisone and Mary Haskins were living on the main floor?
correct.
At any point, would anyone else be there at times living in the same living area with Michael Barisone and Mary Haskins?
Yes, Mary Haskins had 2 children, whom I believe were 12 at the time, and they would pretty much occupy the basement.
Did you ever have any observations during the time that you knew the defendant or knew Mary Haskins and her children to see the defendant interacting with the children?
I did.
Now and I think you said this, but just so we're clear, did the children live there full-time?
No.
What was your impression or recollection about times they may be there or may not be there?
They would just come sporadically and stay, sometimes for a week, sometimes 2 weeks. I believe there was a time they may have stayed for like a month, but mostly it was just like a week or 2 visit every now and then.
Now, at some point, did Michael Barisone and Mary Haskins move out of that house during the summer of 2019?
Yes.
Do you remember approximately when that was?
I believe it was either the last day of July or the very first day of August, but I'm pretty sure it's last day of July, if I had to guess.
Do you know where they went?
I believe they went to the barn.
You mentioned before, I think that, well, let me just ask the question. Do you recall where the working students were living that summer?
They were living at the barn,
Do you recall where Justin Harden was living that summer?
also at the barn.
And using that last day of July, first day of August as sort of a reference point, do you remember if anyone else who wasn't in that category coming to live or coming to stay at the farm on an overnight basis around that time?
I'm sorry, I wanted to make sure I had the question right. Could you just repeat that one more time?
Sure, so
Sorry.
if we use that as a reference point when they moved out of the house and moved up
out.
to the clubhouse?
Okay, yes.
Did anyone else come to stay at the farm around that same time period?
At the actual farm or the farmhouse? You mean the farm?
Just at the property?
There'd be visitors, like one of the working students' parents came to visit. Ruth Cox came during that very same time as well. Make sure nobody else came that I can recall. I believe that's it.
What is Safe Sport?
Safe Sport is basically an oversight for Olympic sports to make sure that there are no abuses of either competitors and trainers, that there is severe protections over minors. They're basically there to make sure that there are no violations of like egregious rules and to keep the sport and the community safe as a whole.
Did you ever make a complaint to Safe Sport?
I did.
Did you ever make a complaint against Mary Haskins or Michael Barisone to Safe Sport?
I did.
Do you remember approximately, was that the same complaint or separate complaints?
It was in the same complaint.
And do you remember approximately when you made that complaint?
I think it was around August 2nd, I believe.
Can you explain to the jury the process you went through to make that complaint?
Yeah, it was sort of an involved process. First, I called the Safe Sport hotline. Everything was kind of just going, there was a lot of tension on the farm, and I wasn't really sure if I should make the complaint. So I first called the Safe Sport hotline to discuss with a person there just the whole situation, and they kind of talk you through your feelings and help you decide whether making a report is the right thing to do or not. And after I believe it was a long conversation with a member of their hotline, I decided that yes, the right thing to do here is to make a complaint. So I then called the number where you make a complaint, which can also be done by filling out a form and sending it in, which I didn't have the equipment to do that, so I just made it by phone. I called somebody and I made the complaint by phone, and that's how that transpired.
Did they ask you certain follow-up questions during that call?
Yes.
What was the general basis of the complaint or the reason that you called to make a complaint?
There were a few. Mainly it was severe bullying, like torturous bullying. And there was also some stuff in there about body shaming. And that's pretty much it. It was mostly just bullying and scare tactics and things like that, and just a show of, power over someone smaller, basically.
Did the person you talked to ask you any questions about whether there were children involved?
Yes, they asked repeatedly if there were children simply just living on the property. Before even getting involved, they were asking over and over again, this is going on, are there children on the property? So to that, I would answer yes. They did ask questions though, yes.
Did you make any complaint against Michael Barisone for sexual abuse?
No,
Did you ever make any complaints to Child Protection or whatever acronym or name you may know them to be?
no.
Now, during the week or so leading up to you being shot by the defendant, do you recall if the police had ever come to the property of 411 West Mill Road?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that prior to?
My voice trailed off. During the week leading up to you being shot by the defendant, do you recall if the police were ever at the property?
Yes.
Do you remember approximately how many times?
I don't remember the exact number. I want to say a total of maybe 5 times. I could be off by 1 or 2, give or take.
Did you call the police at all during that week of August, what I'll call August 1st to August 7th?
Yes.
How many times?
Twice. Leading up to that day?
Yes.
Leading up to that day, I called them once, I believe.
And did you also call the police on the day you
Yes.
got shot?
Yes.
Did the police, to your knowledge, come to the property the day that you called them?
I do not believe they did, no.
So is it fair to say that any time the police showed up at the property that week, it was not because you called?
That would be exactly correct.
Did they come to speak with you, without getting into what they said, did they come to speak with you a number of times during that week?
Yes.
Now, at some point in that week of approximately August 1st to August 7th, did you become aware that there was a lawyer involved representing Michael Barison?
At some point during that week, yes, I did become aware of this.
And how did you remember becoming aware of that?
Actually, I don't remember exactly. I received a letter, but I don't remember how I ended up getting that letter.
What was your takeaway from that letter?
It was a little bit confusing, but the takeaway of the letter was, this person does not want you on the farm, so look for someplace else to go, kind of thing.
Do you remember when you received that letter?
I believe, not the exact date, but I want to say possibly August 5th.
When you got that letter, did you have a meeting with a lawyer?
I did.
And what was the purpose for you going to meet with a lawyer?
We had some things that were unresolved, and we did not agree with some of the things that were in the letter, and we felt it was best to just let lawyers handle it the right way.
Did you have a sense at some point before you got the letter that things were not going well and that you probably needed to leave?
Yes.
Why didn't you just leave?
Well, moving 5 horses, which at that time I had a 5th horse. I'm sorry, there was whispering. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. I asked why you didn't just leave.
Oh, that's right. So yes. First thing is that it is extremely difficult to move 5 horses and just find another barn where they have 5 stalls available, and most importantly, training like, you worked very hard to purchase these horses, make them competition horses, and it's hard moving one horse, you know, on short notice. But moving 5 is almost unthinkable to have to do on any short amount of notice.
Do you have your own trailer?
I do not.
Were you scheduled for, or had you already registered for any competitions or shows that month of August?
Yeah, the week after the shooting, I was scheduled to go show at one of the biggest showgrounds that we had in our region, Saugerties. It's called Hits. And so there was a show the following week. I was set to leave on that following Wednesday, I believe it was the 14th. And that was our plan, was to go to that show so I could continue earning the scores I needed for my goals.
Ma'am, Saugerties, New York?
Oh, yes, I'm
Yes,
sorry,
sorry.
yes, Saugerties, New York, yes.
All right, let me direct your attention to Wednesday, August 7th. Do you remember generally what you were doing that morning?
On August 7th, so,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yes, I was laying on my porch, couch, I was on the porch, I was laying on my porch love seat, you know, on my tablet, either reading something or watching something, I'm sure, maybe on my phone.
Judge, if I could have permission to show the witness S-345 in evidence.
Yes, 345 will be showed to the witness and the jurors.
345. Ms. Kanarek, I just wanted to use this picture just to orient some of your testimony for the jury. What is S-345 a picture of?
The back porch.
And what is the big red item that's in the middle of the picture?
It's an umbrella.
Did you put that umbrella there?
I think Robert did. I don't think I'd be able to put that there myself.
Now that doorway on the side of the house there, is there a doorway under the overhang?
Yes.
What did that doorway open into?
It opened into 2 things. That's the way I would describe it. It opened into a laundry room, which is sort of like a common area. People could do their laundry in that room. But it also was the entranceway specifically to the apartment that Robert and I were staying in the summer of 2019 as well. A big stairway leading up to that apartment.
And so is it fair to say that that would be the doorway that you would typically use to come and go from your apartment?
Yes, that was the only doorway.
Understanding that there wasn't anyone else living in the house at this time in August of 2019, how would the people, when the working students lived downstairs, what door would they use to come and go?
You can't see it in this picture, but there was a stairway leading downstairs, and then there was a door, and that's how they would enter. It's sort of to the left of this, I don't know what to call this thing with little diamonds in it.
Like the lattice?
Yes. To the left of that, there would be a stairway. You could see, like, it's like sort of black behind there, like a shadow. That's where the stairs, I believe, led down to where
There was
the
generally a separate entrance or a
Yes.
different entrance that they would use when they lived there.
Exactly, exactly.
Now, you said that you were sitting on the porch on August 7th, 2019.
Correct.
Can we see that in this picture?
You cannot see where I was sitting,
Why not?
because there's a giant bush.
And that's the bush that's right in the middle of the screen?
Yes,
So behind that bush, there's a porch.
yes.
Do you remember approximately how many steps up that porch would be from ground level?
Not many, maybe 2. 3 at the most, I would think.
So you were sitting, you said, on a love seat on that porch?
Yes.
Do you see the love seat in this picture somewhere? Probably moved from where you would have left it or been laying on.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I can't believe I missed that. You can see the back of it behind the chair that is behind the little yellow, I guess, evidence triangle thing. Behind that chair is the back of the love seat. It's sort of like, it's like made of wicker.
And I don't know, based on the nature of this photo, Judge, that the pointer will work, but if I could just have Ms. Kanarek step down and point out the love seat for the jury.
Sure.
Should I?
Yeah, do you have the laser pointer?
We do, Judge. I'm not sure that it will work on this photo. It is, if I may approach.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can try that to see if you can point. You press that button.
Right there. But my hand's like not staying still.
Judge, I believe the jurors in the gallery
Right there.
could see that, but if you could
Can you
just
see
check
that,
with them.
members of the jury?
It's kind of hard to hold the button.
All right,
Thank you.
And it's
Thank you.
Okay,
So that's the love seat you were talking about. Is that where it was when you were sitting on it?
No,
Where was it?
it was on the actual porch.
And was the umbrella positioned there for a reason?
Yeah,
What's that?
it was positioned there for pretty much a couple reasons, mainly rain, which is why you see it's kind of like attached to the awning of the porch. We set it up so that rain could not come in. So, and also for sunlight. If there was like a glare in some way, it kind of just covered all bases. Rain, sun, weather, it helped.
Now, on August 7th, you said you remember at some point you were laying or sitting on that love seat on the porch by the entrance into the house. Before that, did you have any interactions with Michael Barisone that day?
That day, no.
Did you have any interactions with anyone from the barn that day?
Nope.
And I'll specifically direct your attention to about 2 o'clock that afternoon. Was anyone else present at the farmhouse when you were there?
Not that I knew of.
No one else was at the house?
Oh, at the house, I'm sorry, I didn't, the farm.
No, I'm sorry, I'm probably being confusing saying farmhouse. I'll start calling it house. Was anyone else present at the house?
Yes.
Who is that?
Robert.
Do you know where he was?
He was upstairs somewhere, probably the bedroom, watching TV or on the phone or something.
Now, when you were sitting on that love seat,
Yeah,
did anything catch your attention from the area of the driveway?
yes,
Can you tell the jury what that was?
yes. I was laying on the love seat on the porch, and I began to hear pebbles kind of like being thrown around. And it was coming from the barn, sort of headed towards what I thought would be the road. And that's what caught my attention first, was just the sound of pebbles and the sound of what sounded like a heavier truck or car coming down the driveway.
Did you see a truck or car?
I did eventually.
What did you see?
I saw a big silver dually come over the crest and turn into the driveway where the porch area is and park.
And based on living at the farm and working or training at the farm, who commonly drove that silver dually?
Michael,
Did you see who was driving?
not at first.
When you saw the truck come over the crest and then pull into the driveway where you were sitting, what did you do?
The first thing I did was ran upstairs to go and let Rob know that Michael was here. all of a sudden.
At that point, could you see what Rob was doing?
Yes,
What was he doing?
he was on the bed and he was on the phone.
And do you know, or did you come to learn who he was talking to?
I did.
Who is that?
One of our attorneys, Ed David,
And how do you know that's who Rob was talking to?
he told me.
Did Rob do anything with the phone?
Meaning, I'm sorry, he stayed on it and came downstairs with me.
So you went downstairs. When you got downstairs, did you come to that same, did you go to that same doorway that you just identified in the photo S345?
Yes,
Did you see anyone outside at that point?
yes.
Who did you see?
Michael Barisone.
Did you see where he was?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell the jury where you saw him?
Yes, he was on this side of that bush, with like partial area of his body kind of like hidden with the bush, and the rest of his body was pretty much completely visible.
So like what part of his body could you see?
Like from here up, his arm, and I think that's pretty much it.
And just
Or-
because we're recording all this, but not necessarily video recording it, when you say from here up, where are you gesturing on your
Oh,
body?
sorry, like, I guess waist up, maybe?
Could you see his waistband?
I don't remember if I was able to see it at that moment or not.
Do you recall where Rob was at that time?
Yes, Rob was, at that time, on the porch with, like, next to me.
Was he still on the phone, or did he do something with the phone?
He was still on the phone when we saw Michael.
And then at some point, did he do something with the phone?
Yes,
What did he do with the phone?
he handed it to me.
Did you talk on the phone at all?
I did, I think, but I don't know what I said at that moment. I think I just said, Michael's here. I don't know why, something along those lines.
And do you recall whether or not the attorney was still on the line?
Yes, he was.
Did, without getting into specifics, did you hear whether or not Rob and Michael Barisone talked at all?
Yes.
Did you hear Michael Barisone say anything?
Yes.
What did you hear him say?
I heard him say, mostly speaking to Rob at that point, I don't want a war. How do I fix this? How can I make this all better? Something along those lines, almost exact words, but along those lines. How can I make this better? I don't want a war. I just want to fix everything and make everything good again.
What or how would you describe his demeanor when he said that?
Calm. I would just say calm.
Was he yelling?
No.
Did you do anything after hearing him say that?
After hearing him say that, I went down to go find out how he wanted to do that. I was willing to listen to this, whereas Robert, when he said this, I guess to Robert just said, listen, there's lawyers involved. We can make things better, it's fine, just, have our lawyers talk. And Rob went back up onto the porch. I then was thinking, all this stuff had been happening for the past couple of days. Michael had been calling the police on us for reasons that we didn't even know why. And not that it was out of character for him to act one way one day and then, be nice the next day. But I kind of wanted to know, so I walked over to him and said, how do you plan to make this better? How do you, you have a bill or I was saying something about the bill that he had to settle with Rob, but I didn't get that far because.
Why not?
the minute I started talking, pretty much, or, yeah, within the minute I started talking, he pulled out a gun and shot me once, twice, directly in the chest.
At that point, do you remember if you were still holding the phone with the attorney?
I believe I was.
Did you have anything else in your hands?
No,
How tall are you?
5'4".
Do you know how tall Michael Barison is?
I believe he's 6'4".
Did you see the gun?
I did.
Do you remember how he was holding the gun? Was it close to his body or pointed out and held away from his body?
It was kind of like, he pulled it out, pointed it, boom, boom, just like that.
Can you tell the jury what you remember seeing or hearing when he fired the gun?
Wait, I'm sorry, can you repeat that? What I
Sorry.
wasn't sure.
Can you remember or can you tell the jury what you remember seeing or hearing when Michael Barisone fired the gun?
I remember when he fired it, what I remember seeing or hearing. I remember seeing my chest.
Why'd you look at your chest?
It was almost unreal to me that I just gotten shot. So I looked at my chest quickly to see, are there really bullet holes there? Like, this can't be real. I also then saw Michael raise his arm up and shoot at Robert, who was on the porch still, just directly raised his arm, shot at Robert, and then Robert disappeared. At that point, I saw Michael run around me and go running up the stairs of the porch. And I don't know, so it's just some of it's a blur, but
Do you remember after seeing that you had been shot, did you feel it?
I felt it, but I almost remember thinking, I did not start bleeding right away. So I looked at my chest and thought, oh, okay, maybe there's blanks or something. But then I started bleeding. And I realized,
Do you remember what you were wearing, at least in terms of a top or tops?
yeah, I was actually wearing a red shirt with like gray sleeves. And since I usually always wore hoodies, I'm pretty sure I was wearing one that day as well. I think like either a yellow or a gray one.
And by hoodie, you mean a sweatshirt?
Yeah, like sweatshirt that zipped up. I think I had unzipped with a hood.
After Michael Barison shot you twice in the chest, you said that you saw him turn the gun and point it at Robert?
Yes, well, he shot at me. He shot me, and then, yeah, he raised the gun up and immediately took a shot at Rob. And when I looked at the porch, I no longer saw Rob. So I fully thought that he was shot in the head and killed at that moment.
Do you remember what you did right after that?
Right after he shot me, or
Right after he shot you and you saw him take a shot at Rob?
I think I like spun around in a circle or two thinking, like, is this real? Is this real? And then I looked on the porch and I saw Rob on top of Michael trying to restrain him. Because I guess I didn't really see how that happened, but since Michael went up the stairs to do what only I could imagine was to finish, or to make sure that he did actually.
Yeah, don't assume anything.
Okay.
Just tell us what you saw and what you heard, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you repeat, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, ask a question, Mr. Shellhorn.
Were you still holding the phone at that point?
Yes,
Do you remember specifically, do you remember making a 911 call?
I didn't at the time, no. I told the lawyer that I was on the phone with what had happened.
Now, at some point, do you remember being on the phone with 911, whether you remember actually dialing or not?
Vaguely.
Do you remember what you said to the 911 operator?
I said something to the effect of, I just been shot 2 times. Michael Barisone shot me 2 times, or shot me 2 times in the chest. Something along those lines.
When you were making that call, or when you were on that call, do you remember approximately the area where you were?
On or near the porch.
And so if we're looking at S345, you're talking about that area near where the red umbrella is?
Yes, like almost under it, in the area underneath that area.
Judge, if I could have permission to play S113?
Certainly.
I will operate in the issue with the applicant. Okay. Where are you? Westfield Drive, I've been shot twice, and all the alert. Okay, I'm so up. Right, ma'am, you're at 411 West Mill in what town? I'm losing my blood. Okay, now. Washington Township. Okay, you're at 411 West Mill in Washington Township, okay? Okay, ma'am, where? Okay, where's the phone number you're calling from in case it gets disconnected? Hello? Sir?
Ma'am.
Okay.
I can't get with the fucking gun. I got him detained right now.
Okay, sir.
Get that fucking dog inside now.
Okay, sir?
Yes.
Alright, stay on line with me, okay?
Sure.
Alright, my partner is sending help to middle information, okay?
You need information? Are you fucking crazy?
Sir?
Somebody's coming here, right?
Yes, officers have been dispatched.
On top of a very big man.
Okay.
I'm 5'6". This guy is 6'3".
Okay, sir, just stay on line with me, okay? Officers are being dispatched, okay? I'm sending help to you now. I know, I'm sending help to you now. Stay on the line, okay?
Is an ambulance coming?
Help is being dispatched, okay? Alright, sir. What type of weapon are involved? What type of weapon is involved?
I have no clue. It's underneath him. I'm not touching it.
Okay. How many shots have been fired?
3 or 4.
Okay. Alright, so stay on line with me, okay?
Come here, Rosie. Come on, good girl. Good girl, come here. Come here, come on.
Alright, so when was the last time you heard shots fired?
I think she called you about. Probably, I don't know, like an eternity, maybe 30 seconds after the attack.
Okay, how many more are involved? Sir, how many people are shooting?
He's shouting me, my girlfriend's home.
Sir, is it
I
just
see anything wrong?
Sir,
What?
is it just one person shooting?
Yes.
Okay.
It's fucking worse. Pass the fuck out. Stop fucking run. Stop it, Rosie. Stop it.
I need you to come down. I know you're on top of him, and I know your
He
situation right
still
now.
has the gun in his hand.
Okay. Alright, so just stay on the
I
left.
don't think you're ready. What's that?
So I need to get the person's description, okay? If he's black, white, Hispanic, or Asian.
His name is Michael Barisone. He is white, 6'4". He's a fucking... Oh, he's moving, I'm sorry. He's fucking moving. Yeah, I will break it. I'll break your fucking arm. Oh, he's moving. I gotta put the phone down.
Okay.
Fucking move me! Don't fucking move me! Stop moving!
Sir, where are you located right now? Sir, where in the building are you? Sir, where in the building are you? Sir, where in the building are you?
Get the fucking out of the ground! Get off the fucking ground! If you fucking move, I'm gonna fucking kill you! What's the upper check? What's the back going? The back force.
Was the voice that we heard at the beginning yours?
Yes,
Who was the second voice, the man's voice that we heard?
Roberts.
When you were making that or on that phone call with the 911 operator, at some point, did you give the phone to Rob or did he take it from you?
Took it from me, I'm pretty sure.
Do you remember what was going on at that point?
Yes.
What
I
did
do.
you see?
I saw, as I said before, I saw Michael run up the stairs towards where I had seen Rob disappear. And when I started going over there after I had seen the two of them, which I saw Robert on top of Michael, the first thing that I saw was that Michael had the gun directly underneath him, and Rob was on top of him with, I believe, he had Michael's left arm like just held behind his back, and he was over him. I don't know, the only thing I kept seeing though, other than that, was that there was that gun right there, just right there. And if Rob had let go or something, couldn't keep hold of anymore, it would be so easy for Michael to just get that gun and fire more shots.
Did you do anything when you saw this happening?
I did, in this sort of like walk, crawl motion. I approached the porch area to where they were. I don't exactly remember whether they were like on the porch or on the pavement, just below the, 2 or so stairs. And the first thing that I actually did was I tried to dial 911 from my phone, except with the phones back in 2019, my arms had actually started bleeding. Well, they weren't bleeding. My chest was bleeding so badly that my arms and hands actually had so much blood on them that I couldn't open my phone. And I was just thinking, I can't dial 911. Can't dial 911. And I heard Rob screaming, "Michael, stop moving. Stop moving." Like, repeatedly saying this. And on my trip up to where they were, near to where they were, I just remember that gun being there and how close it was to Michael and how easy it would be for him to get it. So I, at some point during all of this, decided to take my phone, and I felt myself losing energy. But in spite of that, I took my phone and I started hitting Michael on the side of the head with it, thinking that maybe this will help if Robert is losing his grip on Michael and he gets that gun, we're gonna die. So I just took my phone and started hitting him on the side, like the sort of the side that he was facing, and my phone ended up breaking in the process of that.
When the defendant shot you, do you remember approximately how far away you were from him?
3, 4 feet, not even.
The dog that we heard barking, was that the same dog that you looked at a picture of earlier?
Yes.
Do you remember when the police or first responders arrived at the scene?
It seemed like instantaneously almost. I was actually shocked. We called 911 and it was almost like, it felt like seconds. I'm sure it wasn't, but it felt like instantaneously there was an officer that had arrived on the scene. It wasn't like 30 minutes had passed, in other words.
Do you remember what happened when the officer got there?
I do, sort of remember. I remember that the officer had separated Michael and Robert. I believe he made sure the gun, I don't remember if he tried to see if there was bullets in there and separated them, but he definitely did some kind of motion to that effect, and then got the gun and its pieces out of the way, separated Robert and Michael, and then basically said to Michael, 'cause he was, I guess, still trying to move, said, "If you keep moving, I'm going to fucking kill you." Excuse my French, just quoting what the officer said.
Do you remember when other officers and emergency medical arrived?
Again, it seemed to me like almost instantaneously. Officer 1 was there, and then it was like officers were there in general.
Do you remember leaving the property?
I'm trying to think. I remember getting into something, into like an EMT van or whatever. I don't remember if I actually left the property or not.
When you
With
say
them.
getting into, did you get in on your own
I don't-
power, or were you put there?
I must have been put there because I don't actually remember going in. I just know that I was in there because I, at some point, opened my eyes and realized I was in I wasn't even really sure what I was in. I'm assuming it was an EMT van. I had like a one flash of waking up and seeing that and thinking, I guess I'm not dead.
What's the next thing you remember?
The next thing I remember is waking up, and I was in ICU, and I had no clue how I got there or how long I'd been there. I just opened my eyes and almost immediately just felt pain through my body. I didn't immediately see anyone, and then I saw a nurse, and I realized, I think I'm in the hospital, but didn't know how long I've been there.
Were you connected to any medical machines or anything like that?
I can't imagine that there's a less amount of medical machines that one could be connected to when I woke up. I had, sorry, I want to say Muppets, like mitts on my hands. And that's like one of the first things I noticed was, why am I wearing mitts? I'm sure there's a lot more for me to worry about, but that's what I thought. And I noticed that both my arms had like IV drains and things going through them. And then I noticed I could not talk or breathe or really, I just couldn't make a noise.
Why
And
not?
At the time, I wasn't sure. I just was, I don't even know how to describe it.
Did you have anything connected to your mouth or your
I
throat?
did. I had a ventilator in my mouth, but at the time I didn't realize like what that was. I just realized like, I felt like I was like, just something was stuffed down my throat. I had things all over my body, and I couldn't cry out for help or, you know, say, somebody, what am I doing here? It was just like surreal.
How did you feel when you regained consciousness and realized all these things?
I felt a combination of things. I felt a combination of afraid for some reason still, and angry, and a little bit like wondering if it was at all real. Like, did I die? Am I like in limbo right now, or am I really in a hospital? No idea what was going on. I remembered there. I did remember there was a shooting, but I just didn't recognize any surroundings, and I didn't immediately see any human being, so I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if I was about to die in 5 seconds, or whether there had been, you know, surgery. I just didn't know what was going on.
How did you come later to find out that you were at Morristown Hospital?
I did.
How long were you at Morristown Hospital before you were discharged, approximately?
I want to say approximately 3 weeks.
Are you still recovering?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, I still have, from I say like here over, and even a little bit to the right of that, just build up of scar tissue inside and outside my body. Another thing is,
And I don't mean to put you on the spot, or
Okay.
put you on show, but
It's
if you
okay.
could just stand up because you were gesturing, and just because we have jurors back here, so you could just show them the areas where you're gesturing to on your body that you have. So you don't have to
Show.
No,
it,
you
could
don't have to show it,
Judge
man.
Jose.
Just point out where that is,
So,
please.
right here, there are 3 giant holes where tubes were placed in my body, like about that size in diameter. There's a scar, a giant scar going all the way up here, which goes around my belt. There's a scalpel mark around my belly button. It then continues up this way, goes around this whole left like breast area, around to all the way to my back shoulder blade, and that is where the exit wounds are, so there's still those that are visible, as well as 2 entry wounds, which after now it's been 2.5 years or a bit later, but pretty much this whole side of my body is Mrs. Frankenstein-ish mode to me.
And I'm just gonna show you one picture that we marked as S388. And I only show you this picture because you described where you got shot in the chest so the jury can understand where those gunshot wounds are.
Yeah.
Is it all right if I display that, Judge?
Yes, it's in evidence.
Approximately how long after the shooting was this photo taken?
Maybe, I want to say maybe a month or 2, maybe.
And are the 2 gunshot wounds from when Michael Barison shot you, do we see those on this picture?
I'm sorry, what was the question again? I'm so sorry.
Do you see the gunshot wounds in this picture?
Yes,
Can you just tell the jury specifically where they are?
they are to the right of the necklace, like 1, 2.
And you said you had 2 other gunshot wounds on your back from where the bullet went through?
Correct.
Bullets went through?
Correct.
Have you, at some point since the defendant shot you, been able to start riding horses again?
Thankfully, yes.
Are you riding at the same level that you were at the time that the defendant shot you?
No. I will train, some of the movements, but it's to the point pretty much where the trainers that I have now have come up with like different contraptions actually to help keep my left shoulder blade from falling forward. And I mean, when you're riding, you want to be upright and be able to use your body correctly to give the horse the correct cues and aids and show that you're the one giving the instructions. That can't happen when you have almost one whole side of your body that wants to collapse every time you try to stand up, try to sit up straight, basically.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked in evidence as S402A. Is that a photo that you posted on your Facebook page?
Yes.
And is that photo, who is in that photo?
On the left is Michael Barisone. I am on the horse, and standing in front of me is my mother.
And did you post that photo in April of 2019?
I believe so. It was like a photo challenge on Facebook to show.
Does it indicate there it was uploaded April 7, 2019?
I'm not sure where I'm looking. Oh, yes, it does say that. It was. I'm not sure if it was uploaded at that time or if it was used at that time for what we just saw was like a Facebook challenge to post, I guess, a time that was special to you with a horse or whatever it said.
And what was special about this time with this horse, with these people?
This is a time when this specific horse had just sometime recently come over from Europe. I forgot which area of Europe this specific horse had come. He had come, we'd gone to a show, and I was working towards earning my bronze medal. And at that point, I just gotten one more of the scores I needed to complete that medal. And so we're kind of all smiling, celebrating the fact that I not only achieved the score, but went well and over the score needed to achieve it.
Judge, can I have a moment?
Yes.
Judge, I don't think I have any further questions at this time. Thank you.
All right, very good. Given the hour, direct examination is done. Sounds like a good time to break for lunch, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take our lunch and recess now until, come back about 1:25 or so, and we'll get started shortly thereafter with cross-examination. Thank you. We'll just leave it there, man, that's fine. All right, Katie, when the jurors have left, you can excuse media and observers in the courtroom. All right, thank you.